and I'm discovering that he's on Instagram because TikTok we thought was, gonna go. And anyway, I think about who I want to bring in that mindset transformation entertainment, which we trademarked, and how that connects with our heart to be able to really open up and authentically, truly be ourselves. I feel that if we bring that on consistently, and you have others that are holding space around you, wanting to bring, I think, freedom, safety, and healing, like all three of those pillars around you, and you create that for yourself, that life is magic. I call it hashtag speaker locking arms. If we keep locking arms, stop shutting down our vocals, let's keep opening things up, let's keep playing with it, let's magnify, what's in our heart and be able to speak to that. So this is why I invited Brett Casper. And I think of the Casper the ghost. I mean, that was like one of my favorite um, cartoons. And why it was is, I guess what I see in Casper, but I have a feeling I have to ask Casper about this. But I thought of when I was really stressed out, when I was younger, I would be like, I just need to watch something to get me out of whatever scary funk thing I'm in. And I loved Casper the Friendly Ghost because he made these things that were woo feel so regular. And I just loved it because I never felt like a regular person. And I bet with you following Fresh Talks Global Vision that there's just something that you just kind of feel misplaced sometimes. Casper, welcome in. I want to do a proper introduction, but I'm so happy that you're coming from France, Bordeaux, France. So I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to be here.
Yay! I love this. It's 7 p.m. your time, and it's just I can't wait to get on this conversation too. Let me share a bio about Casper. Now, I want you to open your ears to this because when I started reading this bio, it was like, okay, so this is one person and he said all this. So I want you to think about what this bio kind of creates for you in motivation and what's the next things you want to do. And we're going to be talking about gut instinct, gut intuition. And maybe this is where it starts rolling for you even more. Let's listen to this part. Okay. So Brett Casper is an author, food expert, and transformational coach working one-on-one with celebrities, diplomats, and people all over the world. He has been recognized internationally as a pioneer in the kombucha industry, having founded award-winning wellness brand Pure Luck and opening New York City's first kombucha cafe. I love that. All before gut health became buzzword. He has been profiled in 3 continents and received accolades for Food and Wine, New York Magazine, Vogue, and Elle. With notable clients, Michelin starred Leju and Gagan,
Ledoux and Gagananad.
thank you, and Fendi, Polo, Ralph Lauren. As you can see, I have a very American accent here, strong. Fresh at Brooklyn Brewery, Porsche, Six Senses Resorts, Prince Andrew, Warren Buffett, Jay-Z, Nick Jonas, Brooklyn Brewery, Johnny Walker, Beefeater, Gin, and German Vogue. Boy, get my mouth moving. This is
Yeah,
excellent.
it's a
Welcome
mouthful. It's a mouthful. I try to keep the client list small. It's still a mouthful.
I'm inspired with you being here, and I start thinking about how many times we're holding that theme about like the gut intuition, and I remember and still feel that I want to be in my gut instincts, intuition, and the work I do to get there. And I think it's something that it's something you can feel that you're in. You can do the work to get there, but I know there's steps also that maybe you'll want to even share at some point today. Can we start in on, has this always been something for you about listening to your gut and gut intuition, instinct?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always asking myself, channeling the inner intelligence and making decisions about whether or not I should do this or I should do that. And It's interesting. Um, we could go back to the very beginning where, I mean, I've always trusted my gut my whole life. I've always had a sort of a good sense of gut instinct,
Mm.
but I think the sort of the inception story of my brand, or it's not my brand anymore. I sold it, but the inception story of Pure Luck and the kombucha is all based from a place of the gut because I drank a bottle of kombucha and the gut benefits that it gave me from that very moment, the instant that I drank it. Um, the short version of the story is I was really hungover and I was living in New York City and I used to drink a lot. I've been a professional artist. I was a professional artist at the time, and it's a lot of parties. It's a lot of, getting into trouble, doing things that young people do in New York City. And I was hungover and I was on the way to meet a client, and I was like, "Oh, what's this? This is this new thing, kombucha. It was a new thing. Um, it was GT Synergy. I'm sure you live in California. You're probably familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was new in New York at the time. It wasn't in a lot of places. It was pretty new. I mean, this is like 2010, maybe 2009. Um, and I'd heard it was good for hangovers. So I was like, oh, so I
Mm.
just kind of chugged a bottle of it. And instantly it made me feel better. It made my headache go away. It gave me energy and I started to feel better. And so that's kind of where the whole story for me begins, with my gut and trusting my gut. I mean, it's pretty common. It's a pretty common thing that people say, trust your gut, right?
No.
But um, I think a lot of us maybe have a hard time trusting our gut because we're not sure if we should trust our brain, or we're not sure that our gut's even giving us the right signals. Because as a guy who deals a lot with gut health, I'm familiar with how that works. And when your gut health is off, I can't speak it. When your gut health is off, it can affect your decision-making process and your mood, and it affects your hormones, your neurotransmitters. There's a lot of things going on there, and it affects your decision-making, and which affects whether or not you can trust your gut. And so, just getting back to where it all started, it started with that bottle of kombucha, and I started my brand, and then I wrote the book, The Political Gut. And
Mm.
fast forward to today, I found that the more I meditate and the more I connect with my inner self, the more I connect into the internal and understand myself, the more I can really trust my gut. And I use it now almost exclusively. I do everything from gut instinct. I live exclusively in the now. And all my decisions are just whether it feels good or not for me, and whether I feel like the gut says I should do it.
Oh, that sounds so powerful and also confusing. I bet there's a lot of people just wondering, like because sometimes it's like just like a tap, like the beginning, like just kind of like this tap of like, and I can remember a quick story. I remember when I was driving down the road, I always believed in gut intuition, but I was still kind of questioning, like, what's this tap mean? Because I wasn't fully encompassed in it yet. And I just kept hearing move to the other lane as I was driving, move to
Hmm.
the other lane. And I was like in this, I was kind of down for the day. And usually when I'm down, I'm like trying to find that special spot where I'm just like humming, like let's get out of that spot. And so I was getting really tapped into it as I was driving, of listening, move over. And just within seconds, the vehicle in front of me, there was a car that just hit into him extremely hard going the opposite direction.
Oh, wow.
And it freaked me out. It was like I was listening, and uh, if I keep doing that, then there's going to be some magical things coming to it, and I never questioned it after that. And
Right.
so, what you're talking about, because I've been in the health industry for 25 years, and so you're talking about some really juicy, fun stuff, but you're also talking about the spiritual world, like being very connected, if I'm understanding accurately, like, listening to what's going on in your downloads along with your gut. Am I fully understanding that, or do you want to explain it in another way of like what you're
Sure. I,
expressing?
um, you can think of your gut instinct as your higher mind, or you can think of it as your spirit guides giving you a nudge, just like for you, like it wasn't your time to have that. You weren't on that path. You weren't meant to, you probably would have crashed, right? Had you not finally listened to it. It kept telling you and you kept hearing it.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, I think that people don't look out for. You keep getting this information and you're like, it's just like you kind of ignored it. You're like, why do you keep telling me to change lanes? Why, what is going on?
Yeah.
And it's often this sort of subtle, like you said, it's just like a little knock knock, like tap tap, you know, like, and it's a little bit, and then it kind of repeats, and then it's a little bit louder. And so where it comes from is in you know, my interpretation of where it comes from is maybe different than other people's, because people
Yeah.
refer to it as part of their gut. But I, you know, I believe that we're all connected to source energy. You know, if you're familiar with the idea of source energy and that we're all one. And so you, in that story, in that version of our existence, we come to this planet to experience certain things, to live certain ways, to achieve certain goals, to learn certain lessons. And in that process, we can interact and sort of get entangled potentially in things that are not necessarily meant for us to happen, because everybody's story is going on around us at all times, right? So we have, you know, 9 billion stories.
Yeah.
And so those sort of nudges and those pushes are when times when we need to just make sure we're on the right track. We don't want to get pushed too far off the track. And that's sort of my interpretation of it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it really did. Because I could be saying things, and I know that this is something that you're speaking about consistently, and what I've been seeing you do is just, it's really powerful. And I was, the day I talked to you, as we were discovering, like, really, I really want you on the show, you were saying, I'm going to be doing a video, but I don't know what it is yet. And to me, it's like, you're totally dialed in when you say that, because you just know once you start that camera, or right before, you're just going to have this download. Because I feel that's the best way to live. I feel like that is where we increase our energy. We're not feeling heavy in our mass, our body. We're really feeling light and feeling inspired and helping others feel inspired too. And what your role is here in this world. There's going to be some people that say, yeah, I get this, Brett. So or Casper, so if
Whatever you
this
like.
is something where I want to be taking care of my gut, you're like, yeah, whatever you want to call me. But about taking care of the gut, and we're talking about that one source, could you give some vision on what you do for prepping to make sure that you are in that current space? Or maybe perhaps even when you started going deeper in, when you had that kombucha and you start really connecting even more with that gut health. But what's some of the things that you do to make sure that you're present in here now?
Actually, it's a great question. And it's, when you started talking, I was thinking, oh, this is a perfect segue into explaining how it works.
Do
Being
you see? I've been interviewing for 8 years. I care
Yeah,
about this stuff.
you got some skills. Being present in the now is how it works, actually. And so, and I just made a video like a couple days ago about this, and so it's really fresh in my mind, but it's been a reoccurring theme. Like, I just had a client call today, one of my private clients, and we talked a little bit about it. It's just a recurring theme right now.
Yeah.
And so being present in the moment, living in the now, connects us to the infinite possibilities of what's available to us for an outcome, right? If we're constantly in our head, in our mind, and we're reliving past events, or we're thinking about some problem we had with someone, or some drama, or some gossip, it's diffusing our energy. So if we're worrying about our bills, you know, on one hand, we're worrying about the future and our bills, and so we're, you know, where your attention goes, your energy flows, right?
Yeah.
So you're putting attention there in the future, and then you had you know, you had some disagreement with a coworker, and then there's a little energy there, and then you're thinking about that, and then you're someone was gossiping or you were gossiping, and then you're putting energy
Right.
there, and you're diffusing your energy into the future, into the past, and what's happening is you're essentially losing energy. And when you
Mm.
can when you drop, like when you meditate, the idea is that you cut all those connections to all that energy, and you draw all that energy back into your body, and that brings you to a
Mm.
point of being where you're like essentially operating at full energetic charge, so to say, right?
Yeah.
So because if you got 10% here and 2% there and 1% there and whatever, but then you pull it all back in, you're at 100%. And that gives you the power of living in the now, in the moment. And that, because of how the quantum field works, because of how quantum physics and quantum mechanics work, everything is, all of the potential lives in the now.
Yeah.
It's, everything is right here for you right in this moment. But the second you start living into the past, you get more into the body, you pull into the body and out of the energy of the moment of the now, and you're using your brain and your body in a way that is from the past memories, past emotions, past feelings, and you keep drawing those into your present moment because you're
Mhm.
living in the past. But if you're meditating and you're able to keep your present awareness, and for me, this is every day. I worked hard on this. It doesn't happen quickly, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything, because obviously stuff happens and our energy goes other places. But if you can keep your present in a moment, your present, your awareness in the present moment, then you have that possibility to tap into all of those infinite potential realities that are available to you. And you're also connected to source directly. As soon as you start to begin feeling the joy and gratitude, and understanding that the present moment is a gift, and that your existence on this planet is not a it's not a it's a blessing rather than a curse to be here.
Yeah.
And you start to connect with that love, you have a direct line to your intelligence, to your higher mind, to your higher intelligence. And then you can get those downloads, those instincts, those gut intuition. And so it almost becomes not even like you're in control anymore, but your consciousness, your source consciousness is controlling you, because you've stepped out of your mind, and you stepped out of your body, and you stepped into your higher mind. And so,
Mm.
if you look at the human as an avatar, right? We have our processor, which is our brain, and we have our body, which is our physical body. But when you hear those voices in your head and you talk and you envision, how do you see them and how do you hear them if there's no sound, if you're not having
Right.
ears, if you're not, can't hear it with your ears, right? So there's a third person, which is the consciousness. So actually we are consciousness, and it's not just, we are not our mind and we are not our body, but we are consciousness having a physical experience. And so when you can get into the present moment, you can tap into that consciousness on a regular basis, and you can use that to guide you in your daily life. And that's how I live. And I found that there is no better way to live than in the present moment, because when the higher mind is in control, everything is working out in your favor, and you just get out of the way. Like, it's so easy. It's actually much easier to live this way than it is to try to be in control of everything.
That control I can truly feel, um, small, and only being able to see the black and white, not being able to see what you're talking about, what you're tapping into. And I find that I feel safer in that space. And so you
Mhm.
said something about like love, and in some part when you were speaking here, as you're talking about just stepping out of the body and getting connected. I feel like since and this is a hard question, I feel like I have, growing up, I was into closing off my heart. Up, close it off. Don't like that person, or I got
Mhm.
to protect
Mhm.
myself. And it was
Mhm.
always open, close, open, close. Then I started recognizing how safe I felt when I kept my heart open by just being able to be present, seeing and hearing. And then that connected me with being able to feel like there was some other conversation I was having of just like really fresh, like I'm a really smart person. And I started getting a big ego, like, man, I'm so smart, you know? And then I was like, here, wait, I'm like doing things that I'm working with people that are making millions of dollars. I'm like, well, I haven't hit the millions of dollars. Like, how can I even tap into that? And I was like, oh, cut the ego and
Right.
really think about this. You're actually tapping into being able to be present with somebody, to be able to see them so you can hold that safe space for them so that you can allow yourself to be open and get the flow of whatever is coming through. And I've equated that with opening my heart. Is that seem reasonable, or is that, give me some insight
100%.
about just like the heart and the body and stepping out of there or having the heart open? Is that part of the connection?
Uh, that you just said it right there. That's it. It's 100%. That's what it is living in love for, every all beings, and having the heart open to receive the, the infinite love from source. I mean, you pretty much just described it. Keep your heart open, and I think once you can find that place of being, and it's not always easy because the world, there's lots of crap you have to deal with, to
Yeah.
put it bluntly,
But I mean,
and,
true
and
shit. True.
yeah, there's a lot of shit, and
Yeah.
I definitely feel fortunate. I live in a bit of a bubble, so for me, it's a little bit easier because how I live my life, and the way that I operate and have always operated. Um, so
Always,
I
Casper,
but
always operate. I mean, when you were younger, were you in that bubble, or did you create that bubble at some point? Were you really always in that bubble?
well, it's the bubble now is not the same is the same bubble as it was before, but I've always lived in my own little bubble. Like,
Hmm.
I've never had a corporate job. I've never had a 9 to 5 job. I've always been my own boss. I've always had my own, a business, or I worked as a photographer for a long time. I was always either freelance or I did my own thing. I've always had that freedom.
Yeah.
I've always did whatever I wanted in life, traveled when I wanted, done. So when I say bubble in general, that's sort of my general bubble. Like, I don't, there's a law that we talk about a lot, the law of detachment, right? So I've never really been much of an attached person to material possessions, or to even people, so to say. I mean, obviously, there's been times in my life where I've become attached,
Yeah.
but when you can just live in this place of acceptance, and I've always been fortunate in that bubble that I've been able to live in this sort of place of acceptance where I just, okay, that's just how it is, and I move on, and I don't get tied up into it. So that's sort of my lucky bubble. I've been in this lucky bubble. I've always been lucky. I feel very gifted. I've
But
had a
Brett,
very
you are talking to the masses here of they want to be tapping into that. So I know that you have lived that way, but this is, I believe this is, people are aspiring to live in this, and the tools and the experience, like these stories that you have shared,
Mhm.
helps people understand that this is available for them, that they don't have to sit, what I would say, in this shit show and see the
No,
black
you
and
don't have
white
to.
because it's all there in front of you. I mean, you're getting it no matter what, but you're choosing not to be attached, which I really love about that. So, is that what is part of the human condition, is to make sure you're working in the space of like understanding in this transition, learning how to live like this because this is your expertise, this is what you understand. So
Mhm.
is that one of the things, is like learning to discover like, oh, you're holding on to this too much, or you can open this, there's some light over here, you can open up this, let's go further in this
Mhm.
because this is what ignites you, this is what brings in your creativity, this, I mean,
Right.
so I see there's roads and paths you can be taking, and so you must be very aware of that when you're working with people.
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I've been gifted with the gift of intuition, so I'm very good at reading people usually, which has been fortunate for me in my career, and especially in business, because you have to trust
Yeah.
people or not trust people.
Right. Right.
Um, but as far as sorry, what was tell me your question again? I lost my train of thought.
Well, it was more like a flowy kind of conversation about,
Mm.
okay, so we're talking about intuition, we're talking about, but this really is your expertise about living in this
Oh,
bubble and
okay. I
attachment.
got my train of thought back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Sorry, everybody out there. Sometimes I'm
Well,
a little scatterbrained. My thought goes, whoop. Um, uh, you know, I want to bring up decision making. So
okay.
I talk a lot about decision making because we, you know, a lot of people like to think that um, the decisions and the things that happen to them are outside of them, and
Love this.
so you think like, oh, maybe, and I'm not calling anyone out here, and I'm not saying, I've done these things too. It's not, it's just some people
Right.
think they're victims, or
Yeah.
they think the world is out to get them, or the universe is out to get them. I used to think the universe was out to get me.
I
I
have
mean,
bad luck, those
yeah,
kinds of things that people say.
right,
Yeah.
right. And so those are the, you know, to get to that place where you want to be in your life, you have to own 100% of every single decision you make, of every single thing you do in your life. Are you disciplined? Or you're not disciplined? Are you committed? Or you're not committed? Are you out drinking with your friends until 2 in the morning, and then you're not meditating, and then you're not doing the things you're supposed to do to be doing the work, to doing the shadow work, or doing the work, doing the meditations or the exercise or whatever it is to get you to where you're supposed to be. So the first step is ownership, and owning what you do, owning
Mhm.
your decisions, because your decisions are 100% you. And, we can circle this back into the gut here, because what you eat affects your decision making process. And I write about this in my book, The Political Gut. It's about how your views of reality are skewed. And this is actually a good segue here. We can talk about this a little bit more. So your views of reality are skewed. For example, if you love sweets and you crave sweets all the time because you eat a lot of sugar,
Yeah.
then don't take this the wrong way, but you are an addict, and you're making decisions from an addicted, like an addict's point of view, and you're making those decisions based off of those ways of living.
Mhm.
I mean, I was an alcoholic for a long time, so I made decisions on where I was going to go drink and how I was going to do it. And your whole decision-making process gets built around those lifestyles.
Yeah.
And so, in order to take control of yourself and your mind and your body, you have to take control of your gut and your decision-making process first.
Mhm.
And then that sort of leads me into the next segue, which is frequency. So if you're vibrating at a certain frequency, you're only going to attract things at that frequency, right? So like frequencies attracts. This is a law in physics. And if you maintain a frequency for more than 17 seconds, then it attracts like frequencies.
Uh-huh.
And so the longer you maintain that frequency, the more frequencies of that same nature you're going to attract. And you can consider this in the sense of a mood, right?
Mhm.
So you have an argument with someone, and then or something happens and you hold on to it. And how long you hold on to it for, like, it's a mood, and then it becomes a temperament, and then it becomes like you hold on to it for a year, it becomes a personality trait.
Yeah.
And so you're stuck in that way of being, and you've made this decision, this conscious decision to hold on to this energy of this moment that is in the past. And so you're never leaving that past moment. So you have to forgive and forget and move on and
Yeah.
detach. But back to frequency. So when you are vibrating at a low frequency state, sort of, say, anger or
Mhm.
shame and guilt are the lowest ones, but you're only attracting frequencies in that same frequency. But what I really want to say is that what you see in your available opportunity plane is
Mhm.
only inside of that frequency state. You're not seeing those higher level frequencies, those opportunities, because you're blinded by it. You're
Yeah.
blinded by your mental state. I'm having a hard time It's getting the words out of my mouth. Um,
Because you're saying an awful lot. I think of it as like low hanging fruit. Like it's there, but you can't see it because your frequency is at a different level. You're not able to
you don't
see
match.
truly what's right there in front of you. And sometimes people will say, "Didn't you see that person do that? I mean, why didn't that person see that? They should have seen that all along." And it's like,
Right.
it can be right in front of you, and you don't even know it's happening. I
Right.
So, Casper, I have to end this. I'm so bummed. I mean, I
Oh,
could be here
already?
with
That
you
was quick.
for, I know, isn't this crazy? And I could be in all day talking to you. So I hope to again meet up with you and have another conversation. I really respect, appreciate what you're doing out there in the world. It means a lot to me and what I believe why I have this show that I do. And you are a superstar in the essence of every day stepping into what you are finding is your purpose, and that's your bubble. And it's all
It's
available
my
for
bubble.
us. And you explain that so nicely. And I appreciate all the work you're doing and the creativity. And your bio is just so much fun and wonderful to hear what's available when you truly step into it. And I feel like that's why people may have a hard time stepping into this stuff is the belief of that. But when you start looking at your accolades and what you're doing and where you're going and how you're explaining also in the spiritual sense of everybody can have this, but or you can stay
Hmm.
there and feel shame and blamed, which I lived in that all the time. So I really get that. I love that. I bet you a lot of other people do too get that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Where can we find you? I want to make sure that we get information out there, but this is live in a couple places. So we'll also have you send links to make sure we get everything updated and
Okay.
ready to go. But where could we find you? I know for sure on
Sure.
TikTok.
Yeah, sure. And I just before I say that, I just want to tell everyone out there, it's totally 100% available to you. You can change your life. It's it's not easy, but it's definitely possible. Um,
Yeah.
I am on TikTok mostly. Breathe.believe.become, or you can search my name, Brett Casper. I'm Brett Casper on Instagram. Um, the website for my book is thepoliticalgut.com. It's
Mhm.
available on Amazon. It's also available on my website. I have all the links on my website. Um, yeah, that's probably enough. You can find me if you search Brett Casper on the internet, or if you search Brett Casper kombucha on the internet, you'll find
Ah,
me. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, my friend, you have an incredible day. And thank you so much for spending some time with us and giving some really good information in such a small window. It's like I
Right.
feel like we spent like at least 4 hours together and just having this experience together. So appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And everybody out there listening, thanks for listening. And come say hi to me.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Brett. Fresh Talks Global Vision. I hope that we served you in this moment. And what Casper was talking about is living your life in this intuition, but you got to really make decisions quick. You can't just sit on them. So, how do you do that? The brain is going to have you make lists and figure things out. But think about this when you start listening and opening your heart, listening to that gut instinct, the answers are right there. You're going to discover the most wonderful people that you get to spend time with just by feeling it and knowing it. And that's why I'm building this this can happen. I used to do a black and white to-do list and now it's like I need to be doing this, this, and this. And it always gives me bigger return in everything I'm doing from business, relationships, and listening to people. So keep your eyes and ears open in a way of discovering how to stay more present. I love and appreciate you all. I really do love you. Namaste. Love you.